moving on
Yeah.
to Guerrilla, let's stay a bit in the Sony camp. We of course talked about the live service stuff, and that's I think what happened as well when so like the story today. Guerrilla Games did like a sort of behind the scenes presentation for other developers. Some press was there in the room as well, and they basically talked about the development or like going from Killzone to Horizon to Forbidden West, how it is like hard to make a sequel. How can you recapture the magic of the first game when nobody had any expectations? They talked about that. One of the interesting things was that they almost like were on the verge of like canceling Flying because the game also had to come out on PS4. Luckily, they could make it work. Otherwise, that would have really sucked because that's one of the best parts of the game. And then they talk basically about the future as well. So what's happening beyond Forbidden West. We, of course, had the Burning Shores DLC earlier this year. And we know there's a third Horizon game coming. So we will get another Aloy adventure. But we did not know that that is only one of 5 or 16 plans that they have for Horizon. So that's the news now. Guerrilla Games has 16 plans for Horizon. And they're also saying that they're going to continue this for a long time. And let's start with that. Like 16 plans. Now, it's not like games. So it could also be another Lego Thunderjaw. That could be one of the plans. Then a new comic book could be another part of the plans. But we do know a lot of other things that they already have in the works. Should I like list that?
Yeah, go for it.
So I also put the tweet there that I put up in the doc. So the Horizon projects that we know about and that are rumored. So these are like 6 of them. So again, they have like 9 more that we don't know about. Horizon 3, the Horizon co-op game made by Guerrilla Games themselves in-house for 5+ years already. So I really think that's maybe even launching next year. The Horizon MMO started or was like rumored last year by NCSoft. Horizon Zero Dawn, a remaster or remake similar to the Last of Us Part 1 remake. Horizon Forbidden West on PC is coming. And also a Horizon Netflix show.
That's not even all of it. And like you said, probably some stuff like Lego sets or maybe a collaboration again with Fortnite or so, all of that would be counted. But it's clear, I mean, Sony knows they've got a big franchise on their hands and they want to capitalize on it. My stance on Horizon, just so everybody, before anybody's like, Luke's a hater on Horizon. I don't hate Horizon. I just think it's fine, it's good, but I do not think that they're outstanding games. I think there's a reason they have not won any Game of the Year awards, often because they put them and release right next to like some of the best games of all time, but that's beside the point. But I think that they're good games. I thought Horizon Zero Dawn was solid, but it felt like a really good foundational release that maybe they'd just knock out of the park, like from Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2, where you play 2 and you're like, I see the vision came together and it's delicious. But for me, Forbidden West just wasn't that, and I think it was because it was kind of held back a little bit by the PS4 and it just didn't feel that different for me. But it definitely is a
very
franchise.
safe.
Yeah,
I think I would call like Forbidden West mostly safe, and that's like, it's not even that it launched 1 week after what some people say is one of the best games of all time, Elden Ring. It's also that it was a similar open world game that did only like very traditional things, while Elden Ring will be looked at for years and years and years and be pointed at, hey, they reinvented the open world genre. And to be like next to that, not a good look. While if Horizon Forbidden West launched a year before, which it was originally planned to launch 1 year before it did, but of course COVID happened, then we would have looked at it from a completely, I think, kind of a different way.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair to just say it was safe. It was good, but that's where I'm at. I'm like, the Horizon games.
Did you play the DLC?
Yeah. I thought the DLC was really, really cool, specifically the last quest, which is incredibly epic and super high production value. I felt like the rest of the expansion was pretty light on content, but in general I thought it was like pretty much worth it just for that last mission, that last bit. But that's kind of what I was expecting for the entirety of Forbidden West, was crazy huge set pieces that just make you go wow. and there were some, but not. It wasn't paced very well. It just wasn't for me. But still, I
No.
would give it like an 8 out of 10. But for me, they're just not phenomenal, like crazy impressive games. I think they're pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting that like I never like I don't see anyone being like, or I should not say anyone, but I think like 16 for anything is like a lot. Because even the games that we listed here, like these are all or things that they're doing, is also kind of like why do we need a Zero Dawn remaster? I get it for the
Yeah.
TV show, that's probably why they're doing it, and maybe it launches in like 3 years. So then it's like because it came out 2017, so maybe it's like 10 years after the original, which would be the same as The Last of Us. Maybe. I mean, I guess that like when playing Forbidden West, I thought, okay, it would be cool to play Zero Dawn with those graphics, with those animations for the conversations. But I just don't know if it's like worth the investment where you can also, hopefully
Yeah.
put it in something new.
I do think the remaster thing is weird because I like COVID made time kind of stand still, but also skip forward, so it doesn't feel like a 2-3 year period happened. But Horizon Zero Dawn was, in all fairness, 6 years ago. It has been a minute, and it was a last gen title. There is stuff they could upgrade. The facial animations were pretty rough when you look back at it, very uncanny valley. So I think there is stuff they could improve, but I think it's more that people look back at Horizon and it still looks really, really good. Whereas you look back at the original Last of Us and it's pretty rough, but then they did the remake, or not remake, they did the remaster for PS4 for The Last of Us. And so the like remake didn't really feel like that leap because it was only kind of like a 1 generation leap instead of a 2 generation leap. So I agree. The remaster is just weird to me. It's a weird choice.
Yeah. I do think it worked out though for the show, and what we've seen with like the Witcher Netflix show, if it's like on the same quality, or if the Horizon show is at the same quality, then you will have new people joining, and they will be looking at the first game first, and if that has like PS5 on the box, I think they're more likely to buy it. So I kind of get it in that sense. It's just like on top of all the other stuff. We do have like new info on the multiplayer game as well, so that I think like because we even had the VR game that I already forgot about this year too.
Yeah.
But like that we now learned, or they were describing this co-op game as something that was like 2-player, which I think is interesting. I don't think I have it. I'm gonna like look up the original source, but I thought like when you would like really make a co-op Horizon game, it would at least be like 4-player, like Monster Hunter, because that would be like the pitch, right? Let's take down these robot dinosaurs with your friends. But now during this panel, according to Games Radar, who put up an article about it, or Game Reactor, I'm gonna look up the source right now. They noted that it's like 2-player, which I think is weird. I think they removed it from the article. Oh no. Oh, a previous version of this article included a reference to a 2-player experience when the quote was multiplayer experience. I said it in the tweet as well. Mostly kind of surprised by the 2-player part. Curious if that is true. I didn't believe it. But so it's also not true. Okay. Well, that's the breaking news. Okay, like in that sense, we don't have much to talk about. We know there's a multiplayer game coming that could be cool, but I do think, like in the broader sense, before we look at like the Star Wars Jedi game that we got, and the Black Panther game, of course, with the thumbnail. This I think is interesting because I really hoped that after Horizon 3, like obviously they're gonna do a trilogy, Guerrilla would move on. Like they would like sure maybe have this multiplayer game ongoing, keep releasing content for that, but then also look at, okay, what's next? But if they're saying we're gonna be in the Horizon business or whatever they're saying here for like a very long while, and kind of that they're just getting started, it sounds like 10 years minimum to me before they make something new.
Yeah, which is a little bit, I mean, I don't know if it's a bummer, but when there's only so many studios that are world class, which is why they're considered world class, because it's very rare to get there. But it's only so, like, it's pretty rare to have a world class studio that's trying something new, a new IP, something really fresh. And when it works, it really works. You get something like The Last of Us, which came out of nowhere, you know, as a totally new IP from a world class studio back in 2013. Or in many ways, Horizon Zero Dawn coming out of nowhere as a fresh IP that was just totally different from anything anybody had really seen before on that scale, coming from Guerrilla. So it's a little bit of a bummer, I think, is the how I would put it, that they are going to be kind of shackled to this franchise for a bit longer, especially because I think a lot of, at least the people I've been talking to and my friend group and circle, is starting to feel the fatigue a little bit. It felt like because they played Forbidden West so safe, it didn't really feel like a full-fledged next-gen version that got you excited again. It just felt like kind of Horizon Zero Dawn 1.5 or Horizon 0.5 Dawn. And so we'll see. Maybe they're working on some other stuff secretly, but it sounds like this is what they've got on their docket for the next good while.
I mean, I do think that if they really like what I think Horizon needs is the Game of Thrones treatment. Like, make it way more mature, make it way more serious, and like let go of Aloy. Like, give her like maybe another small thing to end her story or something. I don't know, but I wanna go away from this superhuman sort of philosophy, like story where she is like the dynamic is kind of getting old. That was kind of my critique mostly. Well, I do think the world and how these people survive is super interesting, because you look at it from the Aloy perspective all the time, it kind of gets lost. And that's why I was like hyped for the VR game, because we were not playing Aloy. But that ended up being like not the Horizon experience that I want. I don't want to climb for 8 hours. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm hyped for the multiplayer game, because that seems to be including like just like maybe have, instead of like Aloy as this super character, multiple characters that all have some parts of Aloy's kit but have to work together to take out this creature. So maybe those machines should be more scary actually, but because you're like super powerful as Aloy, they never really do, even if you like encounter like a huge new one.
I totally agree. I think a reboot would help, and I think I totally agree that like letting go of Aloy would help. I've said before that I think Guerrilla's really scared of letting Aloy be just a person in the world, and that part of it is because they built it and wrote it from the ground up as her being very special in this universe, very unique. But even I think there's a way to do that with her backstory, where she still is not a superhuman. That's, you know, she's a human taking on massive monster robots, and it's very difficult. Like in The Last of Us, Ellie is a very, very special person, very unique in this world, potentially the most unique person in that world. But what makes the story interesting is that she is just as fragile as everybody else. And that creates this really high stakes, intense interaction every time anything of note happens. Because if she were to just get scraped or die of an infection or something, the world's forever changed. All that potential is lost. And so the stakes are super, super high because she's fragile like a human being is, but she's also very special. But because Aloy is such a superhuman, it never feels like there's any risk or stakes. He took my thing.